again. For you, for you, for you, for you.
Good morning, Sacramento. Thank you for joining us on this beautiful Saturday afternoon, September afternoon. There is so much going on in Sacramento. I don't know. There's just events after events. I don't know. So many of our friends are running for office. So many Black women are running for office. I'm very proud of that fact. So we're out running and knocking on doors and helping people get elected. It's a very busy time. But I hope that many of you will join us today because we've got an exciting speaker for you today. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Gayle Brown, Executive Leadership Coach, CEO of Brown Impact, an award-winning leadership development firm where I work with women of color to overcome challenges to equity in the workplace, leadership challenges, anything they need. Brown Impact is about all things leadership and all things equity. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, we started this forum just to help to elevate the voices of Black women in our community because we are doing so many things, right? And I think we just don't know all of the great things that are going on in our community. And sometimes we just need to be reminded that we come from greatness. We are a great people, and our Black women are doing amazing things in the community. So that's why we started Impactful Conversations about 3 years ago with the launch of the new website, and um, just a forum, just a monthly forum for people to learn about each other. So today, before we get started, we got an amazing guest, Tamika L'Ecluse. Can't wait for you to meet her. But a little bit about Brown Impact. You know, our vision statement is women standing in their power, speaking their truths, and commanding their world. That is what we aim to do in all things. At Brown Impact, we truly believe that all of these inequities in our workplace, in our society, gender and racial inequities, are simply leadership challenges. It's not rocket science. It's simply the leadership challenge of our generation. We think they're totally possible to be dealt with and overcome. And we're the generation that has the most information at our fingertips. There's nothing preventing us from getting rid of all of the inequities in our workplaces, in our society, in our systems. And so I wholeheartedly accept the challenge, and I hope you'll join me. My guest today is someone who is definitely working toward equity. I want to tell you a little bit about Tamika before we bring her on. She's an amazing young woman. She's a lifelong Sacramento resident, a former educator, and a nonprofit leader. After 20 years of teaching early childhood education, Tamika returned to the classroom in 2018 as a student and earned degrees from Sac City College in social and behavioral health and Arizona State University in public service and public policy. In 2019, Tamika was appointed to the American River Flood Control District Board of Trustees. And in 2020, voters elected Tamika to the Board of Trustees for 4 years. And that time she served as the board secretary, the public outreach chair. She's currently the district representative on the Water Forum, an alternate to the Sacramento Area Flood Control Agency, and vice president of the American River Flood Control Water District Board. Her focus is to ensure equity in flood control and climate resiliency. She's prioritizing communities who's historically been impacted by lax policies and redlining. Now, currently, Tamika is the executive director of the Sacramento County Land Trust and vice president of the Sacramento Investment Without Displacement, and treasurer for Organized Sacramento. Wow, Tamika, this is a lot of involvement in our community. I don't know how you're doing all this. These groups focus on uplifting marginalized communities and ensuring equitable policies are established at the local level. She's a wife, a mother, and a lifelong advocate for Sacramento communities. As you can see, she is totally involved. She is doing all the things. So let's bring Tamika on. Let's bring Tamika in to join us. Thank you, Tamika. Thank you for joining us today. You are a busy lady.
Oh, thank you for having me, Gayle, and hello, everyone. I keep busy because it keeps me grounded.
Wow. Wow. So listen, you are, I want to hear more about all that you're involved in. I want to know how you're doing all this, but also before we go there, I'd love for you to give our listeners. Many of our people are busy, but they do listen on recording, and so I want you to give them an opportunity to know a little bit more about you beyond your very impressive background. So, where are your peoples from? How did your people come to be in Sacramento?
So my family comes from the West Indies and West Africa. On my mother's side, my ancestors were shellers in Bermuda. They collected seashells and they used them for jewelry, and they were used in trade and for some currency. Um, and then somewhere, let's see, maybe like 1700s, they were enslaved and taken to Jamaica. And my grandmother came to the US from Jamaica to do banking. She went to the International School of Banking. This, little 4'11" Jamaican woman with a thick accent, and she succeeded in her whole career in banking. Most of her career in banking was in New York um, at Chase Manhattan. And then on my father's side, they were West Africans brought to the South, enslaved in Alabama and Georgia.
Mm.
And his family was part of the Great Migration here to the West. And so his grandparents and parents settled in the Los Angeles area.
Wow.
And I was born in Sacramento due to my mom's military service. Both my parents were in the military. My mom was air traffic control at that time, and my dad was military police. And so my mom was stationed at McClellan in the 70s, and I was born on Mather Air Force Base. And we never left Sacramento after that.
Awesome. I didn't know we had that in common. My parents were both in the service, in the Air Force. My my mom got out of the service earlier, but dad was stationed at McClellan, so he was a 30
Oh,
year.
wow.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's interesting. I didn't know we had that in common. Um, so that's an interesting background. So you said West Indies, Barbados,
Bermuda.
Bermuda, uh, and Jamaica.
Yes, yes.
Awesome, awesome. And tell me about your last name, L'Ecluse.
So that's my married name.
Oh, yeah.
That name is my husband's family's name. They settled in Canada from France. And so the spelling is a little bit different than what you would see in France. You see the L'Ecluse name everywhere. Actually, a L'Ecluse is a way to control how water is um, accessed by boats through the various canals in France. And so when you go and, you go to a restaurant or a cafe that's near a small creek or river, and there's these gates for the water flow, it's called a l'Ecluse, and they're by numbers throughout France.
Wow.
So I
So, you
guess
know,
I'm supposed to be doing the water thing.
I guess so, right? Oh, that is interesting. That is truly interesting. All right. So you have a husband. How about kids?
I have two boys. One is going to be 16 tomorrow
Oh,
and had his final driving lesson this morning. And then I have a 14-year-old, and both of them are in high school. They run cross country. They are just the light of my life.
oh, awesome. Awesome. Well, well, Tamika, you are busy. I don't know how you're doing all of these things. So, um, I need to know a little bit about your why. Tell me why water, why land trust? You're connected to the water and the land. What is your why? What's driving this?
Well, historically, Black folks have, had a connection and, to water and land, mostly, by having our land taken from us,
Mm,
not having, access to the resources that Earth gives us, or limited access. And I really see my role on this earth as, you know, righting some of those wrongs,
mm,
and telling my story and using my personal experience. I grew up, as a kid in Sacramento, over by, McClellan Air Force Base, right? And in 1986, there was a huge flood. I couldn't get to school. Um, it's something that impacts us, our
mhm,
everyday lives, and it's not just for the folks who are scientists or engineers to speak up and represent communities, but it's actually the people who are impacted
mm,
by our infrastructure, by our policies,
mhm,
um, by our rights and our privileges. And so I do this, because I feel it's my duty. I do this for my kids.
mm.
They have been a part of all my campaigns since they were itty bitty, and pushing them on, in the stroller, knocking door to door, asking people to vote for me. Um, I do it for young Black women.
Mm,
Most, most of the election cycles that we've had here, there's only been a handful of Black women, and having more of us run, more of us participate in, civic service in the democratic process
mhm,
really is an inspiration for young Black women who are looking to see where they can go, what they can do in the future. I have done lots of presentations and speaking events to young women in some of our high schools.
mhm,
I usually do a lecture on my service and representation at Sac State with Professor Fidel. And I just see myself as not just a representative of strong Black women, but a person who needs to make sure that door is open for
yeah.
future women to serve. And then, of course, I do this for myself. Um, you know, I, I spent a lot of time wondering where my place is, how I can be of impact, how I can be of service. In high school, I was very involved, president of multiple clubs, captain of the drill team and color guard. And, I just felt that, if I wasn't doing something, I was doing nothing.
Oh, okay.
So I just, try to keep doing what humbles me, keep doing what makes my heart grow, what builds more compassion, more love for the people I serve. That's my why. Everything that I do really does fill a personal bucket, and gives me the confidence to keep going and to push harder, push myself further.
Awesome. Awesome. So your kids were young when you ran for office because you said you pushed them in baby carriage, so they've known you in office their whole lives.
Yes. So I first ran in 2012 for the City Charter Commission. At that time, I had a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old or 3.5-year-old. My kids are 20 months apart. At that time, I was teaching, and I had no idea how to run for office. I was inspired to run by a person who was sitting on the city council at that time. And, I was making flyers on my computer and printing them up at Kinko's. I didn't know about union bugs. I didn't know about endorsements. I didn't know about all of those things, but I knew that I had something to give. I had something to offer, and I had a perspective that was different than the 47 other people who were running for that office.
Good for you. Good for you.
And yeah. And so even though, I did get, oh, hello, Alika. Even though I didn't get, even though I got enough votes for the City Charter Commission back in 2012, the ballot measure to establish a commission failed by voters. And so I didn't end up serving in that role, but I did run again in 2018 for Sacramento City Council, District 5, to represent Colonial Heights, Lawrence Park, Oak Park, and Curtis Park.
Good for you. Look at you. I am so impressed. When you went through the BWAPA process, I think what impressed me more is talking about how much you loved what you did, right? So tell us about that. What is it you love about being on the flood control board?
Well, like you said earlier, I was appointed by the board back in 2019 after a longtime member retired and a seat finally opened up. This is a board that has kind of gone under the radar. A lot of these seats go uncontested and people are able to serve without a challenger for many terms. And so my presence actually kind of shook things up. Our elections became more competitive. Folks, started trying to run against me. As the first Black woman to ever serve on this board, I really find it's my responsibility to make sure I am there to offer a perspective for, folks who've lived in underserved communities, marginalized communities, redline communities here in Sacramento. When I applied to be appointed to this board in 2019, I applied because of my personal experience with flooding and displacement. And I applied because, in my degree program, we did a lot of research, wrote a lot of papers on climate resiliency and recovery from disasters. Katrina being, a huge topic, right? Every semester we're talking about like how it could have been done better. What were some of the failures, of the levee system? And a lot of it has to do with, disinvestment in Black communities. We know that the folks in New Orleans, the Black folks, are still trying to recover years later. We know that our communities are the last to recover when there is a major event. And a lot of times that's how we become displaced and why we have to migrate and why we have to move to other areas. I didn't realize, though, until I started working, serving on this board, how much I love flood control. I love the technical aspects of it. I mean, I'm not an engineer. But, I am a nerd and I do love to learn as much as I can about the work of the people that I'm impacting. Our levee system is about 41 miles, not just American River, but along our creeks and waterways.
Do you all examine the levees yourself? Do you?
We do, yes. So
don't clutch your pearls. Don't clutch your. Don't clutch.
Thank you. My volume.
Well,
We do go out once a year. Board members that opt to go out once a year, and we do take a tour of our levees. We see the work that is being done. A lot of our levee repair and building is done by the Army Corps of Engineers. The American River Flood Control District really maintains that work, makes sure that holes are filled, makes sure that the levee, the integrity of the levee is intact. And we also make sure that the community knows their role and their that they are a solution, in flood control in Sacramento as well. And quite honestly, our tax paying dollars go to the flood control district. And so you guys are a huge part of this work, not just because it makes our district able to do the work that we need to do and pay the maintenance workers, good pay and benefits, but it also ensures that you have a stake in this as well. And making sure that the policies that we pass serve you and your communities is really important. I wish more people would get involved in their special districts, such as your water board, your flood control board, your cemetery board, your fire board, your sewage board. All of these really impact your day-to-day lives. And it's not just when it's raining. Flood control is 365, 24/7.
Right. Because you have to do the repair before the rain comes, before the floods come, before that season comes. So yeah, you have to do the maintenance just like anything else. I know it is a nonpartisan board, right? You have to represent the entire district. Are you the only voice for equity on the board, or are they pretty balanced people? I can't ask you to answer that publicly. Let me rephrase.
Well,
let me rephrase that. Before you got there, I know you keep an eye on those areas because they're marginalized and disenfranchised areas. Is it pretty even, the policies, though? Did you find the policies were pretty even when you got there?
I found that the policies were as good as the people maybe who passed them in the past. We have made some changes to some of our policies, more more making sure that not just Black and Brown communities, but our homeless communities are a priority in flood control. I have a colleague, Ray Vanderwerf, who represents the LGBTQ community. And so both of us, together bring a different perspective. And sometimes, the vote is 2 to 3. But we just keep trying. So one of the things that we have been doing is changing are some of our employment policies. I sit on the personnel committee, and ensuring that folks can celebrate their cultural holidays. Folks can that language in the shop warehouse, right, is language that is inclusive and not discriminatory or not making people feel othered. Changing our language in our policy to take out gender to have more gender neutral language. Those are some of the things that we're looking at, being more of an advocate for homelessness than being an advocate for sweeping homeless. Right. That's what we do. That's what we bring.
Awesome. Important work. Water is a big deal in California because it's a very limited resource. And so making sure that it's equitable is important work. Yeah. Let's talk about running for office. I am so impressed with people who have the courage to run for office, number one. But it occurs to me that, there are a few C's that come into play when you're running for office that I can think of, at least 5: commitment, connection, community, courage, and cash. So, which one of those resonate for you, and which one are two? Which few would you like to speak to?
Well, community first,
Yeah.
always community first for me. I was raised by my community. My mom was hardworking. A lot of times she had two jobs. She was a single mom here in Sacramento. After, her active duty time in the Air Force, she did take some time off, and then she re-enlisted in the reserves. And she's very busy. I a lot of my time I was raised myself, or raised by the community around me, and so community is always my number one. Commitment, as you have shared with the guests, all the different things that I do. I do these things because I'm committed to this work. I'm committed to my community. I don't, just come in, and a couple months later go out. I stay. I serve my term, and I make sure that what I bring is I want to make sure that I bring that consistency, that dedication, that heart, that passion to everything that I do. And so that's part of my commitment. It is a pillar for me in everything that I do. And I would say connection. I've built, I say I collect people. Being a local, I have I have lots of moms, I have aunties, I have sisters. I have built a network of love and support around me.
Wow.
And my connection to those people is very important. I am a loyal person. And, I surround myself with people who want to see me successful, and I want to see them successful as well.
Awesome. That is such a great thing to have as a support network. I imagine, especially in public office, right? I mean, running for office, I think, is I think it's perilous. So I really applaud you. What about courage? Where does the courage come from to run for office?
That support and the people that surround you. When I was first approached to run for office in 2012, I said, no, that's not me. And the person who recruited me was like, no, I think you can do this. Like, you're not a politician. You're a person who has shown, has demonstrated their commitment to community. And he's like, just give it a try. Just try it. And it really did change everything. My network changed. I met people like Tammy Dramer and Eric Sunderland of Organized Sacramento. I met Fabrizio Sasso of the Central Labor Council. I met people who I had looked up to, people that, like the mayor and leaders, statewide, local leaders that I had only seen in newspapers and on the internet. And now I'm standing in the same room with them.
That's awesome.
That courage really came from people pushing me and believing in me and saying, you can do this, even if you don't think so. And so I find my role and responsibility is to do the same for other women. They say, oh, I can't do that. I'm like, no, sis, you got this. You got this. You can do this.
Yes. You're also a member of BWAPA.
Yes, which is a wonderful network of sisterhood and support. And they really do, that encouragement, that you too, sis, encouragement that BWAPA shares with its membership and more in Sacramento is just, it's so important. When BWAPA Sacramento reestablished, our first event was called Connecting the Dots. And
you were there for the first event?
I was there. Yeah, I have my little polka dot headband on because I don't wear many prints. Um, so, but I was there and just being in that room of folks, not just folks running for office, but folks who work behind the scenes. Like there is an incredible network of Black women who can help you, who can support you, who can boost you if you do ever think of running for office, even if it's your fire board, your water board, your library board, your school boards, your city councils, your assembly, all of the different levels, you need support.
Yes.
And that support really does come from organizations like BWAPA.
Mm-hmm. And I know you went through a process, and they have uh, uh, not nominated you, but sponsored you for this election again, and they've have in past years, right?
Yes,
This is your
BWAPA.
third time running for office. Okay.
This is my third BWAPA endorsement. I was endorsed by BWAPA back in 2018 when I ran for city council. And I still remember being at Soul Collective and seeing April Jean and Kula and Mel and Addie in the audience, my sisters. So I have been endorsed this election by BWAPA, as well as the Sacramento County Democrats, the JFK Democratic Club, the Town and Country Democratic Club, and the Queer Dems of Sacramento County.
Awesome. Congratulations on those endorsements.
Thank you.
And when if you are reelected to this board, you will then, I know you're vice president now, but when you are reelected, you will then be president of the board?
Not automatically. It is a vote by the board, but I do hope if I am reelected that I get to serve as president of the board for a term.
Awesome. For a term. How long is a term?
For 1 year. So so we switch roles every single year. If we want, sometimes we'll stay in a role for a couple of years, but the board executive committee is established on an annual basis.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, best wishes to you. I think
Thank you.
if they're smart, they'll keep you in those officer seats because you seem committed, passionate, and just excited about the work. And that's not engaged, right? And engagement is a big deal in these days. To keep people engaged in their work is hard.
Yeah.
I know that you aspire to other offices. Is that something you care to talk about here?
Sure, absolutely. In my day job, as well as the other organizations that I sit on the board for or a member of, we work on a lot of local policy, especially around housing, equity, and justice. I would love to I see myself on the city council one day. I would love to serve the city of Sacramento District 2. District 2 consists of Del Paso Heights, Woodlake, my neighborhood, which is Swanston Estates, which is, this little triangle community that's been split off from the rest of the district by Capital City Freeway. And so we don't have sidewalks. You barely have lights. The city definitely thinks of us when it's time to raise the taxes on things. But we really need more city services and more attention, not just code enforcement coming in and trying to take my neighbors' homes. And so I would love to represent District 2. I am currently supporting Roger Dickinson, who is a longtime friend, who shares a birthday with my son tomorrow. But, I see myself as being a representative. We haven't had a Black woman on the city council for a very long time. Blessings and wishes and hope. If Flo can smash through that ceiling, that would be great.
Dr. Flo Mayor, yes.
So I think that it's time.
Yeah,
it's time. And so, unfortunately, I wasn't in the position to run for city council for this year's election, I really wanted to keep my seat on the flood board because we still have more work to do. We have more coalition building. We have to, we can be better advocates around housing to address our homelessness issue. I still have work to do here on the flood board, and I want to continue doing that work before I go on to a higher office.
Awesome. I heard you talk about someone inviting you onto that board and encouraging you to do it. Who have you tapped? How are you preparing the people coming behind you to step into roles like that?
I not necessarily for my district.
Okay.
Well, first let me say it was my colleague Ray Vanderwerf who brought me in.
Okay.
They were appointed or elected to the board in 2018, and they left a seat for me at the table.
Oh.
And so Ray, I had mentioned them before, we're sometimes the only two votes for things, but that person really lifted me up. And so anytime I have an opportunity, I present my perspective, my position on the flood board, Boards and Commissions Leadership Institute. Like I said, classes, whether it's high school or entry level geography classes at the university level. And I'm always looking to see who else should sit on this board with me. And so not for my district, but I do have a couple people in the hopper for some other seats that will become available in the future.
Awesome. Now, Tamika, how long, if you are reelected, how long will that term be?
4 years.
4 years. Well, you have 4 years to prepare the next Tamika to take your place on the small board.
I think she's ready. I think she's ready.
All right.
I think she's ready. There's actually a couple of women, and I think it would be quite amazing if the look of the flood board changed a little bit to represent the diversity of Sacramento a little bit more than it currently does.
Sure. Sacramento is supposedly very diverse, so our boards and commissions need to reflect that diversity as well.
Yeah.
What words of wisdom do you have for those coming behind you?
Come as you are.
Okay.
Use your experience and your personal history to guide you. Serve with a purpose, and surround yourselves only with those who want you to succeed.
All right. That's good. That's good advice. How about slogans or mottos you live by?
I've got a lot. I've got a lot of mantras around and words of wisdom, but this one I think really speaks to who I am as a person. It's author Ash.
Okay.
I grew up in times before Serena and Venus. So author Ash, and it's start where you are, use what you have, and do what you can do.
And do what you can do. It's real practical advice.
That's it. It's very three simple
things.
3 simple things.
Well, in my research of you, I found another motto that you slated. I think when you went to the land trust, and it was when you give them roots, they find their wings.
Oh, Gayle, you're bringing me back. Okay. So I am a certified parent educator for positive discipline, and my consulting company was called Roots to Wings Consulting. And it's basically, looking back at what you were taught to think, believe, about yourself and the world around you, and how those roots, that you had first formed really bring you to who you are today. But we can also, we also know that roots are almost as fragile as the tree, right? And so when you're nourishing something, to be able to grow and to be majestic, it's also an opportunity to let that person, that idea, that mission, that goal, it's important to let it go and go be out in the world. It needs to go exist somewhere so that more folks can be able to grow and be strong and be nurtured by that goal, by that wish, by that person. And so Roots to Wings resonates very much with me. It was my mantra in doing that work, especially with young children and their parents and teaching staff. So I'm so glad you found that. I love the Roots to Wings philosophy.
Yes, that's awesome. And then, you're very busy. You're on these boards. I mean, my goodness, Tamika, how are you doing all of this? And you're a mom. What do you do to balance all of this activity? What's your go-to in terms of rest and restoration?
Oh, well, balance and rest and restoration, a couple of different things. So to balance, I do make sure that I spend time with my family. Saturdays, my boys are running, they're at track meets or cross country meets, and I really prioritize those. And I will not do something on a Saturday because I need to be out cheering for my kids and other people's kids as well.
Yeah.
But to rest and restore, I love doing pottery. I'm a maker of things. Whether it's painting, whether it's jewelry making, maybe I get that from my ancestors from Bermuda, but I love to create with my hands. And pottery is one of those really it's such a relaxing activity because it really does force you to slow down for about 2 to 3 hours while you are creating something, and then it forces you to return back, not just let it go and let it be forgotten on a shelf somewhere, but it forces you to go back and follow through and finish the task that you started with a little bit of mud and a stick. I also love music. I love to sing. Sometimes, at night when everyone's asleep, I'll go into the garage and I'll just find my favorite songs and I'll just belt it out just to get that little bit of energy out. And music, I love live music. We were just we just saw the Marley Brothers last Monday in Concord. Like, I love it.
Oh, nice.
Or last Tuesday. And then I take naps whenever I can. Naps, I mean, even if it's 20 minutes,
Right.
I take a moment, and this is something that this is something that I use throughout the day. I use it when I'm going to bed at night. I will lay there, whether it's my couch or my bed or, even on the floor, and I'll just close my eyes and I'll say to myself, you don't have to hold any of this up right now. You don't have to hold this. Whatever your bed, the couch, whatever you're laying on is going to hold you up right now. And you can just let go for a minute. And so I do that. I can fall asleep at nap time in 5 minutes and I'll wake up 20 minutes later and just be ready because I gave myself that time to just kind of let go. I'm like, you don't got to hold all this right now, girl. You just don't.
I love that you can just lay on your couch and say, you don't have to hold it right now. You can pick it up later. You don't have to hold it right now. And I can imagine how that allows you to sleep well.
Oh, it's amazing.
Awesome. That's sage advice right there. I love that. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today. I really should be letting you go, but I am so curious about how a little Black girl began to think about, I want to be on a land trust. Most of us don't even know what a land trust is. How did you come to be an executive director of the Sacramento Land Trust?
So the Sacramento Community Land Trust focuses on preserving affordable housing. Back when we were formed, we were established under the leadership of Councilmember Katie Valenzuela before she was council member, and Rose Cabral, who is a realtor,
Wow.
a change agent here in Sacramento. And they really brought a lot of neighborhood leaders together to address the displacement and housing issues, primarily in District 5, where I had ran for city council. And across all Sacramento communities, housing insecurity
It's a big deal.
was a big deal. Yeah. And so they formed the land trust. I was a member for many years. I'd go to the parties, I'd vote during elections. And when the opportunity came, when they posted that they were ready to hire their first executive director, I said, like, that sounds like me. That
Yeah.
sounds like it should be me. And so I applied. And again, I used my experience. I came as I was. I wasn't trying to be anything more than just Tamika, who's, throughout this journey of life has picked up a few things and learned a few lessons. And I absolutely love it. I mean, this is exactly what I should be doing. I have been able, to take our organization to the next level. We're an all volunteer organization, and now we have our first property, are looking to acquire our next property, trying to help the community members in Del Paso Heights take ownership of land in their community before it goes to a market developer, somebody who does not live in our community. And I love the history of land trusts. Land trusts were rooted in the civil rights movement. Land trusts were established, in Georgia by Black sharecroppers because they had the audacity to want to vote. And so these white folks would come in, right, and trying to take their land, and they knew to hold on to their land meant to build generational wealth, meant that they had control over how their land was run, how organizations were governed. And so land trusts, even to this day, still are based off of those initial pillars from the civil rights movement. And so again, I was like, this is where I need to be.
That sounds awesome. I thought you were going to say that at one time you had to be a landowner to vote, and that's why they established land trusts. But that wasn't the reason, right?
No, they. I don't remember all of the details, but it was called New Communities. New. I have to. It's blanking right now, but these were landowners, and they did want to vote, and to oppress their vote, was to oppress their vote and their desire to vote. Land was used as a leverage. Land was used as a tool. And so when I said earlier, our relationship, Black folks' relationship to land and water, right? It goes back. It goes a long ways. Back from my ancestors who were shelling, collecting seashells in Bermuda, to our Black sharecroppers after the end of slavery. And so I felt that, this is work that not only is to benefit the folks in our community, but the folks who are leading it should be reflective of the communities that they're trying to serve. And so our board is very diverse.
Nice.
We make sure that we prioritize BIPOC communities, our Indigenous communities, and really recognizing, that home ownership opportunities really are a way to build generational wealth, because folks are trying to take that tool every single day. These Wall Street investors trying to take that tool, take that resource from us, and we're here to combat it.
Awesome. Well, you're doing amazing work. You are very impressive. I hope that you have a great, season here as you run for re-election. I know Boapa is behind you. We'll be definitely supporting your campaign. Hope you have a great campaign. It looks like you're pretty much a shoe-in. I won't say that. We can't claim that, but I wish you all the best.
Yeah.
And I just thank you for taking time out of your day to be with us today. And I want to give you a last word to say anything that I may not have asked you that you want to make sure people know about you as they get their votes. Get their vote. Oh, I do want to say that cash is the last C, right? We have to run for office. We have to print signs. We have to print flyers. We have to get we have to have a little campaign office. We have to have people running our campaign office. All of that costs money. And so cash is important to running for office. And we do want to support you here at Guest Brown Impact. I would love for Marina to put your link in the chat so people can support your campaign. So let's put that out there and put it up on the screen for people to be able to support the campaign. Thank you. There it is right there. I appreciate that. And we do have a giveaway, but I want to say let's support our people who have the commitment, the courage, the connections. Let's help them by providing them some cash. It's not free. Even I don't care how connected you are, you still need some more additional cash to run. And there's so much excitement about the national campaign for Kamala, and that's wonderful. She's raising millions of dollars, but our local races need cash too. So we need to support our local folks running for office, Dr. Flo, Tamika L'Ecluse. There are a number of local candidates, but let's get out and support any amount will do. I don't care if it's $10. $10 multiplied by $1,000, it really adds up, right? So let's get out and vote for sure, but let's donate. Please put your name in the chat if Alika speaks. Oh, Alika. I know Alika. Thank you for joining us today. Are there anybody else want to put their name in the chat? We do have a raffle prize to give away. And so let's go there next. Thank you so much, Tamika, for joining us today. I appreciate you. The more and more I get to know you, the more I love you. And so I look forward to seeing you at the next BWAPA meetings. And I look forward to your successful campaign for office.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a great day. Have a great weekend.
You too.
Hello, hello, hello. Thank you. Well, we have a book to give away. Guest Brown, Gayle, Girl Get It Right. This is an impact guide to creating the life and work you dream of. It has about, it can be an inspiration for people who are looking to do something different with the one little life they've been given, right? I'm a testament to the fact that you get more than one chance in this life to get it right. Um, and so I um, I looked. It also has four works of artists in our community. So each chapter has an original work of art from a local artist. Has about 40 of my um, favorite quotes in it that inspire me. So we have a couple of names in the chat, and this book will go to um, Alika Speaks. So I will get this out to you, Alika. Marina is my assistant, Marina, at guestbrownimpact.com. And if you will reach out to Marina, she will get your address and mail this to you. So it's Marina at guestbrownimpact.com. Give us our address and we'll get this out to you right away. Before we go today, I had so much fun interviewing Tamika. So we have just a few things to talk about as we wrap up for the day. Let's put the slide up about the upcoming event. I am so happy to be going to. It is the 2024 Businesswoman of the Year. It's actually the 2024 Annual Women's Forum, Connecting the Dots. It's something that the Sac Black Chamber puts on every year, and it's a fun event. They're always highlighting about 2 or 3 women. This year, they've done something different. They have asked for nominees, and I'm honored to have been a nominee, an award nominee. So they're going to be awarding a 2024 Businesswoman of the Year award at this event. And even I don't know who the winner is. I don't know how many of us have been honored or nominated, but I'm going to go and find out like everybody else. Have my fingers crossed. I would love to be the Businesswoman of the Year. I know I have worked hard this year. But I'm sure everybody has. So I don't know how they're going to make this decision. It's going to be interesting. But thank you for joining us. I hope you will join the SAC Black Chamber for this event on October 7th at 5:30. I'm also going to be a vendor. I'll be selling my books there and selling my services there as well. I had already signed up to be a vendor before I knew I was nominated for this award. So I hope you will join us. It should be a fun evening. It's always a great networking event. So I hope you do join us. All right. Have a great weekend. Thank you for joining us today. It was so awesome to talk to Tamika. I'm so impressed with the young women in our community doing such great things. I hope you were too. I look forward to seeing you in October. Our LinkedIn Live in October is going to be October 19th on a Saturday at 11:30, about the same time, same bat station. So I hope to see you there. Over and out. Have a great weekend, everybody, and talk to you in October. Ciao for now.
And I'll rise up, rise like the day. I'll rise up, I'll rise unafraid. I'll rise up, and I'll do it 1,000 times again.